Welcome to our workshop on filmmaking. Today I'm joined by Stephen Isaac Wilson, a filmmaker who's made music videos, documentaries, and art films for the likes of the BBC, the Tate, and of course, ID. This workshop will give you a better understanding of how to create a film using the tools you already have. After this workshop, you'll be invited to submit your work, and one of the pieces will be featured on ID. So hit subscribe to see if your work is featured. We'll start by learning about how Stevie got into the industry and how he learned his skills. After that, we'll set the task and give you some advice about how to create a film that you'll submit to ID. I'm really excited to speak to Stephen today. I don't know anything about filmmaking, so I'm excited to learn along with you guys today. So tell us a bit about yourself, Stephen. How did you get started in the beginning?
I first had an interest, or first started to explore my interest in film, whilst at university. I did lots of internships for people who made films for the BBC and Channel 4. When I graduated, I got onto the BBC's graduate program and worked within lots of different fields within that space. And then I moved to ID, which was a chance to work on things purely from, at times, a visual point of view. And when I was there, I started to make films with my friends outside of work. So they were music videos, and I've been doing that since. So the kind of projects and films which I've always been doing, but now I suppose I'm able to tell things which are most innately personal to me, luckily.
So did you always want to be a filmmaker?
No, when I was younger, I wanted to be a swimmer. And I mentioned that because I think sometimes we have a very binary idea of what we can and can't do with our lives, with our careers. And I think that the majority of us can do a lot of things incredibly well. But what we choose to do is something different from that.
So did you study filmmaking in uni?
No, I studied politics. But it was a very interesting time. We had massive protests against the rise in tuition fees. We had the London riots happening. And it was a moment when young people had a rise in their consciousness about loads of different issues which affected us and the wider population as well.
What has been the highlight of your career so far?
In terms of the work, I think I'm really proud of the thing me and Kareem did for the Tate a couple of years ago. And I'm really proud of the thing that me and Ibrahim did for Vogue Italia last year. And I'm proud of those things basically because of the energy we had whilst making them and the fact that the whole experience was nice. It was I'm really proud of the final product of the films, of course. And with both of those occasions, we were able to screen them in really amazing spaces. And but I think it's just more about actually those things felt so good at the time and still feel so good now, which is why I'm most proud of them.
Speaking of that, have you dealt with any sort of challenges in your career so far, and how do you navigate those challenges?
I have, and I think every single industry or every single walk of life, you're going to experience challenges. I think as I've got older, I think I've kind of deal with things in a way which is maybe a bit more mature than how I've dealt things in the past. But I still think it's all of those experiences, all of those adversities, add to the kind of work that you make. So there's obviously things which should never happen and do happen within this industry, but I think it's kind of the main idea or the main point I would have is just not to give up and to kind of use all of that stuff to kind of refine your story and refine who you are.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that adversity builds character and, affects your work in positive ways sometimes, but the industry definitely has a long way to go. So for this summer school task, we're asking people to send in their work. Can you explain what exactly we're looking for?
Okay, so I think it'd be really nice if people make a film, obviously, make a film which is around 60 seconds long. The film can be any type of thing in terms of like a music video, documentary, a mood film. It has to be made with around 4 people, and I think it'd be really good if people do multiple roles. The film has to reflect the times we're in, I think, at the moment. I think that'd be an interesting thing for filmmakers to explore. And the film has to be made with equipment and resources which are either like borrowed or like already earned. Like, this is not about spending money, it's about using the resources you have in front of you.
So it doesn't need to be a big budget production or anything?
I mean, ideally no money spent at all. And actually, I think that'd be better. Like, the idea that no money will be spent, I think, is quite a nice thread for this project. It's about kind of like harvesting the materials and the skill sets and the talents around you and within yourself. Because I think those have been the projects I've felt most proud of so far. And I think it's just kind of like a really nice creative exercise. For this project, it's about totally original work. It's not about music we've seen, like faces we've seen, clothes we've seen. It's like a story about you and your friends, which I think is just always the most exciting things to watch personally.
So how would you go about finding inspiration for this film?
I think people find inspiration from, obviously, the books they read, the people they meet, where they go, the conversations they remember, don't remember, conversations they wish they had. Memory is a big thing for me. Really exciting, actually, to like see where different people are coming from during this particular moment.
So it's not about looking on Instagram and seeing other filmmakers' work. It's more personal and should be more organic and original to you, right?
For sure. And I think like that way it'd be stronger, like way more beneficial for you as well. Like, definitely about figuring out exactly what you want to say. I mean, I think this project is like meeting people where they're at. I think if it's a case of like not knowing how to edit, for example, maybe it might be really cool to have like a one-shot film. I mean, sometimes it's a real refining process, actually, because sometimes when you're like, we don't have the money to do that, like it suddenly becomes quite easy and clear, like what you can do. So sometimes like too many choices kind of slow down the flow of a production. So I think it would be one of those things where things naturally cancel themselves out, which can be quite refreshing for some people. It means that the thing that you make will innately look more like yours than the people who've made it.
So can you give 3 bullet points on things people should remember?
Yeah, be curious. Like, be aware and conscious of the amazing community of people you probably have around you, and enjoy the experience, enjoy the work that you do, and think less about where you need to get to or the outcome, and more about what it feels like to be able to work with and in an industry which is so amazing.
That was amazing, Stephen. Thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you for having me. It's been so nice.
I really enjoyed that. Stephen talked about how working with your friends and working with what you have around you and just kind of paying attention to what's going on in the world is super helpful. And yeah, I think all those points are really valuable. We need you to prepare a film under 60 seconds long using only the tools and people around you. Hit the link in the description for details on how to submit your work. Subscribe to ID on YouTube to see if we featured your work. We can't wait to see what you create. See you at the next summer school.